Timeform was founded in 1948 by Phil Ball, who many people will be familiar with, one of the legendary punters of the last century. We're still based in Halifax, exactly where we were when Phil Ball launched the company. And fundamentally, our aim is exactly the same as it was when Phil Ball founded the company, which is to serve the punter. We're looking to find future winners and identify and analyse races with the aim of actually arming the punter with the best possible information available.
So the principles are the same, but how are the ratings compiled?
The absolute starting point for us is raw factual data, and then what we trust is the long education that our reporters have had within this organisation, that they're actually looking for the right variables and things that can actually be tracked that might actually influence a race. The wealth of trainer quotes and trainer opinions is they're always speaking from a very, very narrow position. They're always speaking from a very biased position, and that's something that's sort of the first thing on the list that gets crossed off in terms of interpretation of a race.
I just think it's a real problem.
Every day begins with a Timeform team meeting.
It's like Pelmanism over hurdles.
You weren't fancy.
No, I won't.
He kicked on the home turn.
No, I didn't think it was that bad.
He kicked on the home turn, and fair enough, but...
The whole idea of these meetings is to get a team opinion, so that it's very much a Timeform view rather than an individual's view. And what happens is, at a specific time of the day, the yesterday's analysis that has been done by everyone gets re-examined, so there's ideas thrown around, differences of opinion, hopefully with a consensus coming at the end of it. And then by this time as well, we've got the next day's declarations in, so it gives us a chance to fine-tune any ratings, any commentaries, the idea being that it's very much a team effort rather than just individuals. Naturally, because there are lots of subjective things within horse racing, there's not always the same opinion, so it's usually a very simple case of the biggest bloke usually gets his way in the end, and that's generally the way it happens here. But no, lots of different opinions. You can see we've got old and young coming into it, and the idea is that it's very much filtered, all this information, so we've got one view.
After the meeting, the team begin their preparations for the afternoon's racing. Chief reporter Martin Dixon is covering that day's action from Uttoxeter.
One of the key parts of reporting on races and doing the analysis of them, Luke, is making sure that you're thoroughly prepared, so that you're almost expecting certain things from certain horses and having questions in your mind that you want to go on and then answer in your analysis later on. So down each of the 14 mares that we've got running in the novice hurdle, there's little things that we need to discuss and bring into the analysis after the event. And if you've done your prep thoroughly, then you know what questions you should be answering.
Just for instance, I'm looking down, let's look at the 1st of August here. It says often races in rear, often races freely. Now, well, you'd be looking at that and looking, perhaps, if she's learned to settle now, and then you'd obviously amend that, I presume.
Yeah, I mean, if she was to settle better today, then it would be something that I would focus in on straight away. She's always been patiently ridden, August Hill. You've mentioned that. It says it in the report. She might get a more attacking ride today. That could make a difference to her, perhaps. If she doesn't, and she's pulling hard again, we could maybe go into looking at suggestion of a hood might help her. That sort of, some use of equipment might make a difference to August Hill. All of those little things are interesting. We've got Villarreal down at the bottom of the card, who had one start over hurdles already, didn't jump well enough, just made lots of little niggling mistakes. Is she going to be better on that score today? And there's just little questions that we've got to answer about all of these horses.
Once preparations are complete, it's off to the race room to watch the action unfold. The timing of the race is crucial to the Timeform method.
The first thing that we'll do is time the race, and to go into a little bit of detail on that. The official time is taken as soon as the starter lets them go, if you like, and releases the tape. We take the time every time from when the first horse goes past the starter, because that's the official distance, and then it's a constant as well between all of the races on the card. So if you get two 2-mile races like there are today at Uttoxeter, then you can draw direct comparisons between the pace that they've gone in those individual races. Everything is done through the times with regards to the ground and how much over the standard times they're going and what that suggests. So they're off and racing now. So I'm kind of trying to gather initially the sort of gallop that they're going. The pace to me looks fairly slow. We've got Dawala in the lead.
And you'll be making constant notes?
Yeah, I do my notes, so we do them in numbers. So Dawala, for instance, she's making the run-in, so she gets a number 1. August Hill is more positively ridden today. That's maybe helping her settle a little bit more. She's come to dispute the lead. Those just in behind, Koala's in there, she gets a number 2, and we go right the way back through the field doing that. So the ones that are dropped out the rear will get a number 5. And that then goes and gets stored again on the digital database so that we can build up a profile of how these horses are ridden or tend to be ridden in their races. I mean, Villarreal's gone. She jumped badly on her hurdling debut at Wetherby, and it's let her down again today. So she was quite a good filly on the flat, Villarreal. She was rated, I think Timeform rated 88. She might never get to that standard of form over hurdles because her jumping at this very early stage, admittedly, seems to be something of a problem. Princess Kitani in there just taking quite a keen hold. She has quite a habit of doing that. The red cap there on the outside, she's quite keen. She used to be that way on the flat as well. So we'll see if that affects her with regards to her finishing effort later in the race. She could perhaps do with settling down a little bit more.
I don't know about you, I think the most interesting one is August Hill. The way she's been ridden completely differently this time.
Yeah, it is, and it's really helping her, isn't it? We can see. I mean, that'll be my first port of call with her and the report on her today, because she has been more positively ridden. When they've anchored her out the back in the past, she's just been far too free, and it's not helped her. Today, given that she's settled better on the front end, we would hope that she might show a bit of improvement in her form as a result of that. And if she doesn't, you'd have to view it as a negative, given that she's settled quite well. So Princess Kitani looms up. I tend to use a lot of the symbols that we use at Timeform. So we have like a K means travelling well in Timeform speak. A P means that they're pulling hard, things like that. And R means that they're responding generously to pressure. So it's Kuala, isn't it? Kulala, sorry, that's come to the fore for Dennis O'Regan. She'd probably get, at this stage, if she sees the race out as well as she seems to be doing at the moment, she'd probably get an R symbol, which means she's responding generously. Princess Kitani she's got a slightly high head carriage as well, hasn't she? Shall we take the time there? 3:53.40. And it'll be interesting later on. There's a 2-mile handicap on the card. It'll be interesting later on to see how this time with the novices compares with the more established handicappers.
You'd then go back and look at that race again?
Yeah.
You wouldn't sit there and watch Schmidt Fitz?
I might do for a bit, but I'd go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Probably the first half of the race you watch, you know, you can get that in by watching it a couple of times. And then from the point where we would view the race developing, which in that instance was probably just from the home turn where they really started to gallop on and things started to take shape, we would watch that part of the race more closely, more times, or I certainly would. That would be my style of doing it. By watching the race enough times, when you go back and watch the video, you should really be at a point when you go back to your computer to actually write the report to be able to get it right at that stage.
Now, I've just watched that first race that you talked to with Martin, him making all his notes. What does that, taking that forward, how does that process work now?
Well, the first port of call is trying to get a rating on the race so that the handicappers themselves can form an opinion, but also so that the reporter's got something to work with. We'll see in so many instances where many races where horses have an existing rating that we think they're capable of. So you've got those to work with for starters. And we also use race standardisation, i.e. what it normally takes to win this sort of race. And that gives us a basis to produce this automatic rating, which is a ballpark figure of what we think that particular race is worth. And from there on, Martin, whoever's reporting for us, will use that as his guide. He can base all his analysis around it, and that's the very first point after the race is finished and you get back to your desk to do the work. And
Dan, just when you look through the Timeform race card, I mean, it always historically was for the anorak, for the guy that just wanted to know how quick the last furlong was, but it's completely different now.
Yeah, it's totally diversified. It's often described still as a ratings organisation, but we do so much more than that now. There's content, there's the comments themselves that you get in the race cards are more detailed than ever, and we're looking to expand as well RE race cards with new features. We're constantly testing and developing new ideas, which we just hope can help the customer. And it's always a point of reference. Our ratings always have been since the 40s. We've been doing handicapping on flat racing. But beyond that, we've got the fact that people buy our product with a view to try and point them in the direction of a few winners, and we're more dedicated than ever with the editing process we have, the new innovations that we've come up in recent times, horses in focus, warning horses, to try and nudge our customers the right way.
So it doesn't really matter whether you're looking at all the stats there, or whether you're just looking down for the highest rated horse in the race.
Yeah, and think beyond that as well. When a horse has finished his career, it's regularly the advertiser will want to know what Timeform rated that horse, so whether it's going to be as a stallion prospect or a mare that's going to go to the paddocks. They don't just want to know the official view, they want to know what we rated the horse, because we've been doing this for so many years now.
Advances in new technology, greater information available to the punter, and indeed new media have created their own challenges to Timeform. The company may have been in business since 1948, but this is far from a company stuck in the past.
The dynamics of the company have had to change over the last decade or so. There's no doubt we're no different from any other print business over the last decade, that we had to adapt or die. And we're no different to whether that's a newspaper and all the changes you see on a national level in terms of papers moving online. And absolutely we've had to change certainly our output in terms of how do customers, as you rightly mentioned, how do they actually want to interact. And it's far more likely now, and the shift in terms of our revenue has actually been far more towards the online side and towards digital sales. We're in quite a niche industry. Horse racing itself has to fight for breathing space, and historically Timeform, even within horse racing, Timeform was actually even a niche within horse racing, and certainly always being a print product, that was actually a niche that was actually starting to dwindle, and we had to react to that. There's no point just putting your head in the sand, and actually if you were just solely a print business now, I think we'd be facing trouble, frankly. So I think certainly over the last 5 years we've really adapted, and what we hope that will lead to is actually we're setting ourselves up for the next 10 years. That actually we'll come up with products and services, and some of those will actually showcase in conjunction with the races. We've got the Plus Timeform development that's hopefully going to launch in the new year. That actually there's an array of customers across racing, and we no longer want to just serve those at the very top end. That actually, if you're doing the fundamentals we talked about at the start absolutely right, then there are some customers that actually, they do just they've only got time to look at a 1, 2, 3 and just know what a Timeform analyst actually thinks, right through to the customer at the other end who's got all evening to really delve into the form, to go through every report on the online product. And then there's actually a middle ground as well. And I think it's that middle ground where we're trying to develop new products, and a lot of the feedback we've had from customers about sort of untapped areas. So actually, whether that be trainer rankings, whether that be jockey rankings, and actually all the skills that we've accumulated over 60 plus years can actually be applied to other areas of racing as well.
So the 60 years plus that Timeform have been in operation may have seen many changes to the organisation, but with the principles of founder Phil Bull still well and truly installed in the company, Timeform continues to thrive.